There are a lot of people in this world with mental illness, but when it comes to the context of online, sometimes we think of it as being very authentic or being real, and we sometimes promote it a lot more or like it a lot for maybe the wrong reason. So I really want to talk about that today, in particular on YouTube. So I like YouTube history, I like internet history, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this sort of social topic and sort of like how it came to be about mentally ill girls on YouTube and how they took over and how it kind of became into modern, I guess, like Gen Z culture and all the memes and stuff around it. So I think this is interesting. Not a lot of people really like to talk about it. So the 2010 era. So I would say this sort of like genre of of content and this sort of character of this mentally ill girl or person, right? Sort of came to be around YouTube in 2010, and Eugenia Cooney is the example that I'll give because I think she's the one that basically created this whole sort of area unintentionally, and she was very different from the examples that we have now. But it kind of is characterized by the following, and it's women who visibly struggle in some sort of way, but they are very open but also chaotic at the same time. And so this kind of garners some sort of supporting comments, obviously, probably either from younger girls or other people who are struggling with the same sort of mental illness or some sort of physical issue with themselves. But it also garnered a lot of trolls. For instance, with the Eugenia Cooney example, she had an eating disorder that was extremely serious, and people obviously, um, make fun of that or have some sort of dark humor that enhances, I guess, like the negative impact that it might have on her. And so, you get those kind of people anywhere around the world. But what I want to emphasize here is who was actually helping in this scenario, right? This person making the video for the sake of themselves? Why are they posting it? Are they posting it as a result of their illness? Why, are they doing it? Who are they doing it for? Well, one could argue it's for themselves. One could argue they're trying to make a living off of trying to, I guess, like promote their illness and kind of make this sort of social wave, which I definitely think it was both. And maybe intentionally and unintentionally, right? There are people, you can try to gauge what their intentions are based off the context of their videos, and that's subjective to yourself. But I definitely think it's a little bit of both parts. But who was helping really? The people in the comments were definitely trying to help these people in some sort of way, and I don't know if, for example, this video down with the government, if they're necessarily trying to give or get any sort of help. They're kind of just making an opinion or a statement sort of thing. But that's like a decent example. But what kind of came out of these sort of videos was the example over here. So Eugenia Cooney, like she had a severe eating disorder, and she created this sort of unintentional genre of the sad girl on YouTube, and that's kind of characterized, and it has like these sort of aesthetics that we'll talk about later. And she attracted viewers who needed help, and also trolls who wanted to downplay this sort of area. And so what we'll basically find is that people are helping one another. People are obviously downplaying one another. But what we get from this is that we actually, as in there are some people who enjoy this sort of person as, I guess, an attraction, right? So this we kind of get to this like I can fix her idea, right? Like in a general sense, right? If you have a person who is unstable, who is mentally unstable, and they are at risk of hurting yourself, others, or doing something that is extremely drastic, a logical scenario would be you would probably not want to be in a relationship with this person, or romantic, platonic, whatever it may be, right? You probably don't want to interact much with this person for the sake of yourself and them, and you want to get them help, right? But what we get is this sort of classical conditioning, right? So there's some sort of aesthetic and attraction to this sort of negativity that we repeatedly see over and over and over, that we end up associating these trauma or these negative sort of aspects about this person. In this case, might be the mental illness, it might be the way they dress, it might be the way they look, towards positivity, right? So we kind of get this like I can fix her sort of thing, right? That you see online. It's like especially associated with like emo or goth people of that sort of like, I don't know, like stature, how they look, how they dress, what they listen to. I think it's like the typical association for those groups, right? And so, I can fix her or we can be terrible together, right? And so and I don't think this is a particularly good thing, right? Because you know that there's little benefit or little happiness or whatever measure and standard that you go by for this relationship that you're going to get out of it or that you're going to give into it is probably not going to be the best. And yet you are still willing to go into it, disregarding the whole mental sort of scenario that's going on, and only do it probably for lust, physical, whatever it may be, whatever it is that you're after. And so, yeah, I just think it's not a very positive thing. And so, this kind of like I can fix your idea is like a very bad sort of way to go. And you might think, oh, it's just like a meme and stuff. No, but there's like genuine people that, online, and they talk about, bad experiences, good experience, etc. And obviously, it goes both ways. You can't really determine whether it's like positive or negative outcome most of the times for every single possible scenario. But my idea or think it would be that it would probably not be very positive because it's traumatic, right? But then when we have the negative relations of this person sort of categorized, and then we see it over and over and over, it probably turns pretty negative, right? It, for example, if let's give an example of like domestic violence in this case, right? If somebody is repeatedly in a domestic violence sort of case or sort of scenario, and that happens multiple times throughout, let's say, like a decade span, and this person starts to sort of get conditioned and used to it if they do not seek some sort of help and therapies and stuff like that, right? So they start to think it's normal, right? That's like just the classical conditioning of the sort of relationship that happens, right? So that's like an example. And so what we get here is these sort of aesthetics that is characterized by physical identity, right? So what we have is Eugenia Cooney having this sort of mental and like I guess like sort of like physical disability or disorder, and she embodies this sort of goth social character, right? You see the eyelashes, you see the hair, you see, the black, right? And so we typically associate that social group to like goth or emo people, right? And so then you have this is like present day over here. This left one is like the same sort of characteristic, but now it's characterized by like a lot of anime, dark clothing, particular sorts of music, maybe gym, right? Obviously, these could be sort of stereotypes, but these are ways in which we categorize certain groups of people by the actions that they do. And so online, when that translates, it kind of creates an aesthetic that now we have this sort of idea that we want and like these people despite the negative components of it. And so it creates this physical identity that I mentioned here with all of these sort of aspects of these people. And so the question is sort of uh, the suffering that comes from being authentic kind of blends into whether it is healthy or not, right? So you're being authentic online, you're talking to people, and sometimes they support you, and sometimes they downplay you because there's the trolls and stuff like that. But being authentic and getting that sort of information for yourself, is that really helping? Is that making you suffer more? And that's kind of up to the person who's posting the videos, right? So we have to kind of see both ends of that. But I do think some positive things came out of it, and the most notable one being, I definitely think this made it more open for people to talk about these sensitive topics openly on YouTube. Definitely before like 2010, and obviously YouTube was still relatively new at that time. It's not like you would want to post a video of yourself talking about, if you had schizophrenia or if you had some sort of other disorder or something like that online for everyone to see, right? It's kind of very new at that time. So now there's like tons of videos and information that you can learn about online about this. So I definitely think that's a good thing that came out of it. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you remember Eugenia Cooney and her videos that she made back in the day, I know it's all big talk and stuff like that, but I definitely think she's still alive. She's well. She's posted like this video was from a year ago, so definitely like a survival story because she definitely didn't do that well. But then we have like these sort of modern videos like down with the government. I don't know, is my dog an FBI agent? Some things that you think might just be for show and definitely not just mentally ill people, because we definitely have people who act as if they are mentally ill to get some sort of benefit out of it. So yeah, let me know what you think about this topic if you're around during this era, and yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.